I know they that one. Oh, boy, attacker. I know they that. I don't do what you want to do. Don't come up for here.
Who is the person driving the car?
I see they explain, give the police and say no, she's not going anywhere.
No,
who is he?
I said that she's going. Like this.
You explain it to him. Who calls him?
You are trying, don't worry.
No, you are doing for your level. I know that's what you have to do for your level. Who goes in for she to explain where she want to go for police?
You are good.
What be that?
You are a very good boy. Don't worry.
So finally, the both parties have started talking. Firstly, late yesterday, I think that should be around 9 or 10 p.m. Nwoko wrote an epistle. In fact, what he said, guys, watch till the end of this video. Another thing I want to chip in is that Regina Daniels and his brother, both of them, they have come out to also counter what he said. And in fact, Regina Daniels part of the story, what she went through. Hey, this drug of a thing, in fact, how it all started. My Omo is annoyed. So, according to Nwoko, he said these videos show Sammy, Regina's brother, repeatedly coming to my home and harassing my children and domestic staff, especially whenever I was not around. His visits were often aggressive and disruptive. This is someone I sponsored through his last 2 years at the University of Ikbuma. I bought his musical instruments, rented and furniture the flat for him in Abuja, in addition to the house I bought for Regina in Asaba before our marriage for the use of all of them. I routinely provided allowances to all members of the family, including her mother, Rita Daniel. Indeed, in the last 2 years, I have a record of transferring 125 million to her alone. When Regina started her rehabilitation, there was a clear instruction by the doctors to strictly restrict people, especially her enablers, from having access to her. The therapy was arranged after I noticed troubling changes in her behavior linked to her dependence on certain illegal substances, including going for 48 hours without sleeping and eating every 2 hours. There were at least 2 serious incidents where she left home in the evening and did not return until the next day. The first incident, she returned in the morning around 9 a.m. When I asked where she had been all night, she casually said she was at a nightclub. When I questioned why she would stay out all night, ignoring my calls and refusing to answer messages, her response was, "You are not my father, so don't ask me where I was." I found out that she was with Cassie and that Cassie was staying in Regina's house in Life Camp. Cassie is the chemist and supplier of the group. I had to go to Life Camp at 6 p.m. to ask her to leave. With her around Regina, the therapy became a joke. On another occasion, on the kids' birthday to be precise, I returned home with the kids because Regina said she would stay with her Nollywood friends for dinner. She didn't return until 5 p.m. the next day. I took so much nonsense just for the sake of the kids. I also knew that drugs had a lot to do with it. As to her reasons for continuing with drugs, she will always say, just like her mother, that it is a celebrity lifestyle. They will always mention 2 well-known pop stars. Unfortunately, Sammy, Destiny, some of their siblings, together with a few of their friends, notably Sonia, Uche, Montana, among others, constantly defied those instructions. They would come into the house uninvited, sometimes forcing their way in, and would bring her the same drugs she was being treated for. Instead of helping her recover, they encouraged her addiction and completely frustrated the efforts of the doctors and therapists working with her. It is important to know that Lawrence, Sammy, his girlfriend Enki, Destiny, Sonia, and others also took the same drugs as Regina. In fact, Lawrence and Sammy were the ones who first introduced and supplied these drugs to her. They were deeply involved in the habits themselves, and rather than helping her get better, they kept drawing her back into the same destructive lifestyle. I do not drink alcohol nor smoke. In fact, I am a vegetarian. So I found these characters and behaviors reprehensible and totally unacceptable. Just 4 weeks ago, I woke up around 4 a.m. and realized that Regina was in my room and on the phone. She was clearly high, and she knows that I do not want her in my room in that condition. I asked her to go to her room, and she told me that Sammy's girlfriend was in her room. I was alarmed and angry because that girl should never have been in my house, let alone around Regina, since she's one of the enabler and constantly bring her the substances she is addicted to. I told Regina that girl had to leave and one of my drivers dropped her off. 30 minutes later, Sammy came to my house shouting and demanding that I come downstairs to face him. He said I had no right to ask his girlfriend to leave my house. He was ranting, he was ranting and threatening, waking up everyone including the children. I eventually went downstairs and had to instruct the security to physically push him out of my compound. The level of audacity was shocking. Without the influence of drugs, could he have been so bold and disrespectful? They did not stop there. On several occasions, they verbally assaulted and intimidated the police officers stationed at the house for security. The officers were simply following instructions to restrict access for the sake of Regina's recovery. But Sammy and his group would insult and threaten them. Whenever Regina wanted to go out and I was not around, she would become extremely hostile towards the police and domestic staff. She would shout, threaten, and use abusive words, insisting that she must leave the house no matter what. Everything that happened that day was in my house in my absence. Nobody was beaten, and nobody could have contemplated that. It is blatantly false to say that I sent dogs to beat Regina in another house. The video that went viral was filmed entirely in front of my house by Regina's sister and her friend. It was a pure Nollywood scenario in front of my property in my absence. Sammy should have a life of his own outside of Regina and pursue his career. Yes. When his brother Lawrence went to London a couple of years ago to do his masters, I also offered the same opportunity to Sammy, but he declined and insisted he wanted to stay in Nigeria and pursue his career in music. He has been arrested a few times by the police and EFCC. He needs a total rehab, otherwise, his violent behavior will continue. Imagine the pain of a husband trying to help his wife recover only to have the process sabotaged by her siblings and friends, the very people who should have been supporting her healing. This pattern of behavior made it almost impossible for her to recover. Each time progress was made, they would undo it by smuggling in the same drugs she was fighting to give up. The entire household lived in tension and fear because of their constant harassment, interference, and disregard for boundaries. It would be interesting to know her reason for the violent behavior in the house the day that Sammy and other siblings came and attacked my staff and security, taking Regina away after doing a video, which they posted the next day. Why did they do that video? Why did they post it? They simply planned and orchestrated a script all in my absence, regardless of the fact that my keys were there. They took away many things from my house, including one of my phones, money, and many more items. Ha! Hmm. Wow. This is going to be a very, very long ride. A very, very long wahala. It is real. Ngwano, bye.